Hello and welcome to Adventures in Venueland, an EAMC podcast. This is your all-access pass to go backstage and behind the scenes with some of the brightest minds that cross the scope of the live entertainment industry. I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. We'll introduce you to some of our favorite people as we dive deep into the world of live touring shows and the venues that host them.
Today's adventure takes us to Tempe, Arizona. We're going to speak with a marketing professional with 24 plus years of sports, performing arts, live entertainment industry success, from the Globetrotters to Cirque du Soleil. She's seen it all. She's a founding member of the City of Tempe's Black Employee Alliance and our most recent EAMC Impact Award winner for her service to the community. Please welcome Kelly Lovell-Taylor. She's the Marketing and Public Relations Officer at the Tempe Center for the Arts. Kelly, how you doing?
Good, Dave. How are you?
Good. It's great to get a chance to talk to you. Of course, we were all together at the Event and Arena Marketing Conference in Minnesota not too long ago. Had a chance to see you talk on a panel, present an award. What was it like for you to kind of be back and meeting with people who were, kind of going through so many of the same challenges these last couple of years?
Dave, it was refreshing. It was an moment. It was a band freaking tastic. I am not crazy moment. Everybody's in the same boat. I am not alone. And but it was just so good to reconnect and see some of the people that I haven't seen in years, and so amazing to have people that I worked with years ago go, I remember working with you. It was so fun. It's just that wonderful, validating, refreshing moment. Just people who absolutely share the crazy with you.
Yeah. Yes, sharing the crazy. We were just talking about that before we got started here, that there's a special connection between people in this industry who all are, for some reason, we're also passionate about.
We really are. And it's that when you see each other, Paul, you were saying that when you can talk to your friends about this and they look at you cross-eyed like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Don't care. And you can't really vent to anybody with any substance, because they really don't have a grasp of fully what it is that you're going through or understand. So when you see those others, you're like, oh my God.
Yes.
I think one of the unique things too about kind of live events is it tends to be only, most markets, I would say there is only like one arena, one theater, whatever it is. So unlike just choosing a random profession, but like if I work in banking and I'm stressing about banking, I might know other people that are in banking in my city. We can all kind of commiserate together. Yeah. But like chances are, unless you're in a larger market, if you work in an arena and the shit hits the fan, or even if it's just a fun little hiccup that day, chances are most of your friends don't work in that industry. They're in something else. So all your complaints are going to go way over their head. And so to your point, whenever you're able to meet people who have experienced those same troubles or even the same victories and can fully appreciate it with you, it's like an enlightening experience. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone.
It's totally true. It's absolutely true. And it's nice to reconnect with the people. You can pick up the phone and go, because to your point, we don't have another in the area, another venue. In my instance, because it is a performing arts center, there are many, but it's still different. Performing arts centers and arenas and stadiums are completely different animals, similar struggles.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because you've seen it. As I said, you kind of have seen it all. But tell us about your current role there with the Tempe Center for the Arts.
So I was hired 7.5 years ago. The building is phenomenal. It's this beautiful performing arts center on a body of water in the desert. We're the only ones. There's on Tempe Town Lake, so it's beautiful views, fantastic setting backdrop for our music and theater and so on and so forth. But they had been open 8 years. It's a city-run venue, and so they'd never had a marketing department. They had the public information officers. Never had a marketing department on this phenomenal architectural. You drive along the freeway and you can see it, and it's just architecturally stunning. But no one really knows what it is. Because we are in this fun little space called the FAA, and we are literally door to door, maybe 5 minutes to the airport. So to the north of us and to the south of us, we are at flight path. So you can't have any moniker or lighting or signage on the building.
Oh, interesting.
So people drive along the freeway, they see it and they go, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Right. So the challenge was coming in is to set up and start the marketing department from scratch. So that's what I've been doing for the past 7.5 years.
So sounds like no small task.
No, with no help. So it's all marketing, PR, advertising, social media, email marketing, setting it from the ground up, which is an amazing opportunity.
Everything you do is an improvement, though, right? So that's the good thing.
Yes. Yeah, you can't fall off the floors. Truly.
Yeah, exactly.
You really can.
What kind of events do you guys do there?
So everything from theater to dance. We have a 3,500 square foot art gallery here. It's free always, and it has 3 to 4 rotating exhibitions per year. We do concerts from symphony to rock to country, everything you would do in an arena, just in a lot smaller and more intimate space. The acoustics here are amazing. I will say Natalie Cole, rest her soul, before she passed, had played here. She opened the venue and she said, oh my God, this is like the best space. A woman who's traveled the world and can have her pick of venues said, the sound in here is the most incredible I've ever experienced, which only served to amplify the show, right? Because the artist is hyped and she's into it, the crowd's into it. I mean, it was an amazing opening.
That is so awesome. I guess back to your interesting challenge with signage, that's got to be something really unique. Does that mean there's no like digital marquees or anything? Because anything that's lit up, are you doing a lot of advertising by plane skywriting?
All the time. Very effective.
All the time. Yeah.
And you can monetize that. You can track it. So not at all, but I know it's working. So no, we don't. We just got a marquee. I want to say like 5 years ago. The challenge is it's on a road. Well, we have a freeway to the north of us and everybody can see it, which would be such an amazing opportunity to put in lights on the roof, Tempe Center for the Arts. You can't because of the FAA regulations, so nobody really knows where we are. But conversely, on the south side, we are on a road that is not as well traveled. So we have a marquee on the street that's not as well traveled. What do you do with it?
That's better than no marquee.
Indeed, yes, it's ideal. Better than a sharp stick in the eye. I still am going to stick by the skywriting is my go-to.
Yeah, skywriting.
Yeah. But the beautiful thing is that we are a city facility, and because there are so many facilities around the city, so our rec centers, our city halls, so on and so forth, they do have marquees, and we have our community TV station. Awesome. Actually, believe it or not, people do watch. So we are able to at least use other people's marquees.
Yeah, great.
So, obviously, been a crazy few years. What was the whole pandemic run for you here as a city employee and at a performing arts center?
It was frightening. As everyone else, it was frightening. I'd gone away and I came back on the 13th of March and came into the office and wasn't feeling great. And I thought, just a cough. I've been traveling. I called in on Monday, the 16th, and the world had stopped because I really couldn't come in. I was sick as a dog. I ended up having COVID at that time. I didn't realize that's what I had.
You were a front runner.
I was so fun. I like to early adopt. So I decided that was a good idea. Note to self, don't do that again.
Try the new restaurants, try the new COVID. You gotta jump on the bandwagon early.
Indeed. So we came back, and the city, which for the longest had no work from home policy, there's no telecommuting, it had to scramble to figure out how do we as a city operate all the facilities, including Performing Arts Center, remotely. What are we going to do? And they shut down and just never came back. But we transitioned really well. I will say we as a Performing Arts Center really became sort of this impetus for the city, we became, you know what, we're going to do virtual program. We're going to start. We're going to help people get through these next couple of weeks that will be closed,
right?
Or like weeks. Forever. Yeah. For years now. So we said, you know what, we're just going to keep the show going. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out this live streaming thing. And so we did. It took us a few weeks to transition, but we figured it out and got better and better and better. And so we just did it weekly. And just the whole idea was, at the time, like everyone else, trying to keep people entertained and supported, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy through crazy.
So what kind of events did you guys do over that run?
We just did a lot of music. We also did, we made it very multicultural. Actually, we made it completely welcoming because we recognized that everyone is in this boat, right? So we made sure that whoever we brought in was pretty representative of the community, so that people felt some sense of continued connection with us. They recognized people that were like we do, another venue person. Oh, look, someone that looks like me, someone that I can relate to, which is, you just wanted that because you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't see your people and your family and the stuff and things. So we made sure that we were pretty diverse. So we really we have a sculpture garden outside. So we figured out a way to make it safe for the performers. We did it outside, and we did a lot of music. We did some dance. Awesome. We did some talks, Facebook live chats, and it was really good.
That's like the double-edged sword too, that I think we were acutely aware of in the industry, is not only did everything shutting down hurt the industry, hurt the employees working in it, but what the arts provides to just the general public, which is so much of like a therapeutic release. It's expression. It's so much. It serves such an important role, like cannot be overstated enough. And so to not only not be able to provide that to people, but to provide it in a time when people needed it more than ever, when they're trapped at home. And it's like, it was a tough thing, I think, for all of us in the industry, because we realize that's for many of us, that's why we're in this, is we like, making those moments for people. And so take, any layoffs or furloughs or, the industry business side of it out of it, to not be able to provide that for the community when they needed it the most was a tough pill, because I think everyone saw, how much communities were struggling, and like, the arts, music, all that stuff could provide that. So I think that's lovely that you all found a solution and were able to kind of bring that back, because I'm sure it was welcomed with open arms.
It was. And, Paul, you made a really good point, because it wasn't just about the community as a whole. It includes the artists, right? And so they lost their revenue, and we recognize that. And while we have smaller budgets than the Schottenstein Center, but we figured out a way to still be able to pay the artists. So we didn't ask them to do it for free. We decided that while we're providing a service to the community, keeping them entertained and buoyed and sane, we also provided that outlet to artists who had zero income instantly. No space to go, no place to play, no revenue. But even just the small amounts that we were able to pay them, they were grateful and still be able to connect with their audiences, because they lost that connection to their audience too, right? Totally. So I think it was a huge win all the way around for all involved. And it taught us, like everyone else, how we had to reinvent ourselves.
Yes.
How do we do this? And it forced, I think people have this idea with government that it's pretty complacent. You just plod along, you get a paycheck.
Train rolling.
Yep. Just keep it rolling every day. Another day, another 50 cents. But it forced us, and I love my colleagues because they're just as passionate about this space and what we do, that we figured out, you know what, we have to get better. We have to do better. What does it look like? What do we look like? Let's reimagine ourselves when we come back out of this in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, right, because we all thought it was going to be, just a short little run. So March 2020, you're down with COVID. Mm-hmm. And then obviously, COVID wasn't the only big thing that happened, right? A lot of social justice concerns. But you were part of a movement, and I want to make sure I get this right. Juneteenth 2020. So when most of us are still scrambling, trying to figure out which end is up, you help establish the Tempe Black Employee Alliance. This was the first Black employee group established in any government organization in the entire state of Arizona. Mm-hmm. And I want to read this here. Helps connect, influence, empower, and strengthen the relationships of Black employees with each other and the city staff at large, with the goal of fostering inclusion. Some of us got there. It just took us a little bit longer. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy and instant path for you, but talk to us a little bit about that the inception and the coming together of that group.
Well, we actually been talking about it for a while. I think I mentioned it on our panel with Dr. Deb and Ann, and such a great, amazing group of women, by the way, and Kate. We'd been talking about it because we didn't see many people of color in and around the city as employees. And so we've been talking about it. And finally, George Floyd happened. And as a Canadian, I am pretty even-keeled about most things. But for whatever reason, it just hit so hard and resonated so strong that I felt the need. I had to go and talk to the city manager, because I'm sitting and I'm listening in public information officer meetings. And I'm listening to, as the only Black person on this call, the miss here. And we didn't respond. And I was frustrated. And I thought, why is the city not responding? A city that I'm so proud to work for, and that is very supportive on paper of diversity, people, integrity, respect, all of the things that we say. And where is that? And so I went and I sat with the city manager. He is an incredible human. And he listened. I asked questions of, why aren't we responding? Whose decision was this? Why are we burying our heads in the sand? What's going on? And so that sort of became the impetus. And in talking with some of the other Black employees, we got together and the city manager said, you know what, put together a mission statement. I think it's time. This is absolutely the right time. Let's do it. And it happened on June 19th that everything was approved. So everybody, the blessing of the city, and that's how we came about. And we recognized, looking at the numbers, that there was only 4% of us out of there was 74 people out of 1,608 employees, and out of our firefighters, 168 plus, there were 6 out of 350 plus officers. There were only 15 and 1 Native American. And you go, what? It's insanity. That's so. Not only are you dealing with the pandemic, but you're also dealing now with what felt like insult and injury, and it felt even heavier and harder. And we have to do something. We have to say something. We have to be better. And so a key point about this Black Employee Alliance is that it's open to all city employees. And more than 50% of our membership is non-Black, because they're allies. And they recognized in that moment, as everybody did, watching that 9 minutes, that this is so wrong. And we want to do something. People just didn't know what to do. And what do we do in a pandemic where we're stuck at home? What do we do? And so it really just started to take hold, and we started talking with people and creating a safe space for people to talk and ask questions and vent and support one another in a safe space. And so that's where we are now. We're just continuing. We have this thing called Talk Time. And I love that we present, we do this breath, because this is about to be a heavy topic we're dealing with today.
Oh no,
Take a breath, and we all dive right in. And no one says, "Are you crazy? Seriously, you're asking that question?" Like, there is no animosity. Right. It is an honest, and it's just real talk. So it's a great space for people. So now we have 3 pillars. So it's social justice. We're talking about the hiring, firing, recruitment, promotions, retention policies within HR. We also have a community engagement pillar, and we have an education pillar. So we're talking about, what does this mean? What does racial trauma mean? What are all the stuff and things and all the words and mean? What does it mean? What does it mean to be an ally? So we're teaching, but it's also educating and being a support system for the Black employees, sort of this conduit, because as we said at the conference, a lot of times they're the lower on the rung. They don't think they have enough money to be able to, because we're hourly. I don't have enough money to invest. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I didn't know we had all these health benefits available to us. So part of that education is not just teaching about how to be an ally and all the stuff, the topics of the day. But it's also about, hey, we're supporting you. Did you know the city offers education? Get your education, help yourself move up that rung. You know, it'll be, you don't have to come out of pocket. You can invest. You can't. So it's part of that education, and community engagement is working with partners and other groups within the city, within our community, inside Tempe and outside.
Yeah, one of the big takeaways from hearing you speak, on this topic, it was a lot of us, our response was checking the box. Mm-hmm. Did we respond? Mm-hmm. Right? Did we post the right statement to our Instagram account? Did mm-hmm. we? And that's always been a concern of mine, right? Is I don't want to just publicly respond. I want to see what we can do to not just check the box, but to do more, to actually make things happen. And that's what I love about, you establishing the Black Employee Alliance there, is that it's not just checking the box. And I know that's very important to you too.
It absolutely is. So Suzanne Kimball Richardson is a very dear friend. We came up through Globetrotters together, learned how to be promoters, and
shout out Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne.
Suzanne. Hi,
we'll make her listen to this episode.
Please, I will send it to her. But she came to me and she said, I want to nominate you for the Impact Award, because we're still very, very, very dear friends. And I'm like, okay, great. What is that?
Yeah.
So she explained what it is, and she was explaining to me what EAMC does. And so to your point, Dave, it was important to her that, EAMC didn't just check the box. So
right.
I'm appreciative that you guys are continuing to move this ball forward. But we can't just be complacent. We have to continue to look at ways to support one another. How do we diversify this industry? And you both said, looking around the room at EAMC, what's missing? Who's missing? Who's not in the room?
Yeah.
Right. So, and why aren't they in the room? And how do we help them to be in the room?
How do we change that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you know what? It's not about one having more than another. It's helping everyone to get to that same level, because when we're all there, we're all rowing in that boat together. We are going to get to that finish line a lot faster together than if we just are all over the place and sometimes doing it, sometimes not. And we have to do it together. And that means it has to be representative. And just look at all the stuff that's going on right now in the world, right? It's becoming pretty monochromatic. Unfortunately, it's going back, which is frustrating and frightening and head scratching and all of the things. So I appreciate EMC for not just checking the box, but continuing to keep your foot on the pedal and moving this ball forward. It's not easy. It's not easy. And we're all slammed, right? We're all busy. As I think Shani Tate Ross said, every day's a Wednesday. Let's not. Yes. And that chick, shenanigans. She's brilliant. Shenanigans. But she said, every day is Wednesday on one of your podcasts. And I'm like, you're right. There is no, just every day is Wednesday. We don't take we are all crazy busy, but we have to take the time because it's important to continue to move this ball forward, even if it's slowly, and not just check that box. So you said you're going to, can I give you an example?
Absolutely.
Of the crazy?
Yeah, go for it.
So people put out statements. I'm not going to say which company it is, but it's a very large, recognizable insurance company. And they put out a statement about who they stand for, blah, blah, blah. And then nothing. But then Black History Month came up. And their idea was to serve chicken and watermelon to the employees for Black History Month. So, no. So when we say not just checking the box, we have to continue to educate ourselves. We have to figure out what we don't know. We have to ask those questions. And then we have to figure out what we're going to do to make sure that we're continuing to take these steps for equity and inclusion.
Yeah. And it's got to be kind of a multi-pronged thing too, because I think like what you were mentioning it is going to take time. And I think no one should think for a second that they can solve or make a statement and not only check the box to say, oh, we've done this, we're in the clear, but also, we fix things. You're not going to fix it with an Instagram post, like that's.
Thank you, Paul. Right? Yes. Or a statement and then nothing.
Right. Or a statement, you have to if you're saying something, then back it up and show people that, and there's not also, I think, probably something maybe, and this is probably generalizing, but something that I think a lot of companies probably were quick to like defend their stances, right? And say, well, we're not guilty of this. Mm-hmm. And instead really should have said, we could be doing better at this. And this is how we're going to start. But that takes admitting, it takes some humility and admitting that we really are not where we should be. And here's how we're going to change that. And I think instinctually, a lot of, PR people are like, no, we've been doing it. Here's how we're great already. Pay no attention over here. So I think it is important to understand that, there is room to grow. And even like to speaking from the conference, that was something, some of the earlier conversations is like, we realize there is a lot of growth that needs to happen. And we realize it's going to take a lot of time, but we've got to keep pushing forward. And how do we do that? And how do we do it at every level?
Correct. But you have to ask yourself also why, Paul. Sorry to cut you off, but you have to ask yourself, I keep saying this, what is the why behind the what, right? Because to your point, people are like, look at all the great things. We are not bad people. We are good. And yes, you are, but you're missing it. So you have to understand the why behind the what. And you're right. Humility is a big thing. Humanity. We all have to have that humility. I made a mistake. Oops, sorry. Okay. But I will do better. Right. So that's all it is. It is a growth mindset. And if we take a look at it as a growth mindset, I think more companies would absolutely grab onto that, but because they're all about growth and getting better, improvement, right? So if we change the wording and the narratives to we're growing, not embracing, well, you're saying I'm a bad person. So, and then we become defensive and then we don't want to do anything because I don't like you, because you made me feel bad. No, we're growing. It's a growth mindset. And when you look at it that way, I think it makes it easier to then start figuring out where is it I need to grow and put that strategy into place as to how you're going to do that. What is the why behind the what? Why are we doing this? Because it's the right thing to do, but we have to include everybody that's in our community. When we hear everybody's voices, that's when we get a better picture and we can put out even better product. We can do better. If you're only hearing one side of a story, you're gonna probably not get it right. Because there's more than one side of it. Take a look at all the sides. Is that wrong? Is that bad? Why is that bad?
It's very important. And I think, it's the why there. Instead of just doing it to do it because everybody else is doing it, understanding the why, Kelly, it seems like it's so important.
It is. Why did you post that? Because you looked around and you saw your friends do it and you're like, oh my God, I better get on this bandwagon. And so I did it. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Good. Nope. No.
That's not how it works, my friend.
You have to be doing it for the right reasons. Think about anything that you do it for the right reasons, not just looking around and seeing that everybody else is doing it. So it's you're bandwagoning. Similarly with companies and the response that the city had, which was a couple of weeks after George Floyd, kind of, let's take a look and see who else is doing this. Is this a safe space for us to go into and put our statement on? No, wrong answer. Be that leader, right? Yeah. Have people looking to you. That's what we do in everything else in terms of innovation and science and education, all the things that we say Tempe is, we're innovators. Then take a stand and you be the leader. It's not always easy. And sometimes it's scary, but you know what? If that's who you say you are, then do what you say you are. Do what you say stand by what you say.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So if nobody else said anything, were we not going to say anything?
Right.
We're not going to do anything. Right. We had to wait until somebody else did something to do something.
Right. Where's the integrity?
No, and it's true. It's true.
Where's the integrity? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is. And it's just the right thing to do. And
you're very passionate about it.
I am extremely passionate about it. I take a look at, I'm not as articulate. Dr. Deb from OBG is a phenomenal woman. Like, oh boy, not worthy.
Oh yeah.
She's amazeballs. She's so articulate about, and just as passionate about this subject. And while I don't have a doctor's degree, as I like to say, I have lived it and I recognize it, and it's innate. And I look at the connections that you have, right?
Yeah.
Dave,
Yeah.
Paul, we get along, we're great, but we don't look alike.
Definitely, some different backgrounds. And that's what I want to ask you about next, Kelly, is I want to take you back to, January 1994. You get your internship there in Toronto, right? Are you working at the Sky Dome as in public relations? How'd you get that first step into the entertainment industry?
Dave, I've had coffee and cocktails since then, and a lot of sleep. It's a long time ago. So this one time when I was in college, I have a degree in PR. And so at my college, Humber College in Toronto, we part of the requirement for graduation was your last semester was an unpaid glorified internship. You had to complete that in order to graduate. So they asked you what industry did you want to go into, to nonprofit or corporate, or they gave you a choice as to where you wanted to go. And I said, no, I want corporate. And unfortunately, all the corporate positions were taken. And so they're like, well, we've got Sky Dome. And I was like,
oh no.
Yes. I was like, so, okay. So I went, and the first 2 weeks they had me doing, intern stuff, make that label, answer the phones. I'm like, I'm a graduate. I don't answer phones. So bad mindset. I'm like, and I remember going back to my advisor going, yeah, so see, entertainment's not the thing. You need to put me someplace else. This is crazy. And I don't sleep. I work like 18 hours a day. This is crazy, man. I can't do it. She's like, well, I guess you're not going to graduate. And I am so glad she didn't switch me. She didn't even try, because that was my jam. I fell in love, and it just went from there. And I was hungry. I ended up eating up everything. I wanted to get my hands into everything. Let me set up. Okay, great. I'll be a ticket taker. Great. I'll answer the phones. Great. So I recognized, and I caught that bug, and it was downhill or uphill, I guess, depending on your perspective from there.
It's so funny that you say that, right? Because you were this close to, had that one conversation changed your entire life.
It would have changed the trajectory.
In a different direction.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I wouldn't change this craziness for the world. I have made the most amazing friendships, relationships through EAMC and just through traveling. I fell in love with all of the shows, from Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey to Harlem Globetrotters to WWE. We were the space for the Toronto Raptors before Scotiabank even existed. Air Canada Centre, Scotiabank, all the names. It was an exciting space in which to be. But I fell in love, for whatever reason, with the Harlem Globetrotters. And I decided, what the heck? I've always wanted to live in the US. My mother's American. Let's try this. And they took me on in their PR department, and I just went from there to marketing and senior marketing director. And then
you did almost 9 years there, and I can't imagine. You're not really a marketer in this business until you've done a Harlem Globetrotters show, right? But what a learning boot camp that had to be for you of 9 years and with the Globetrotters.
It was unbelievable. It was a phenomenal ride. I will say, I learned, I give credit to Manny Jackson, who was the owner at the time. And I think a lot of touring shows give this opportunity, but he particularly gave us the opportunity to figure it out. It was baptism by fire versus, this is your role. This is where you're stuck. He allowed us to get our hands into everything. So from sponsorship to media buying to traveling and figuring out group sales, all the things. And when we had pagers and dial up on the road. But it was a huge opportunity to learn from the ground up and get your fingers in all the pies. And I will say I had the opportunity to learn from my venues. Madison Square Garden taught me a ton. Even to some of my smaller venues, Hershey, Pennsylvania. It was an amazing experience. And I learned not only just in our own Harlem Globetrotter space, but from being all over the country. what other people are doing.
And, I'm curious about this because, when looking at, your history, there is, not everything goes 100% as planned in this business for sure.
What?
So
Wait a minute.
Tell me about your brief little run there where you left the Globetrotters and you went to work for the Desert Botanical Garden.
So it was a good idea on paper. And I thought,
sounds cool.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I was getting married and I was on trains, planes, and automobiles. And my then husband thought it was a really good idea that maybe I should be home to do this marriage thing. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. I'll do it. And what I liked about the Desert Botanical Garden, it gave me an opportunity to be home, and we wanted to start a family and so on and so forth. And they had events, right? So they did the pumpkin patch and so on and so forth. So there was something, because nonprofit is really not my jam, but there was something that I could sink my teeth into and grow. And they have a very static audience. And I applaud the executive director, who was incredibly supportive and embracing inviting. Why aren't more people coming to the garden? Because they don't know about it. Let's talk about this. And so he was ahead of the curve. So that was an opportunity. But then Globetrotters came knocking, and Manny called. He's like, hey, really need you back here. I'm like, great. I need to be back there. Yeah. So there's only so many cactuses you can look at.
So you do almost 3 years then again and you go back as the VP sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a different view of promoting, because I'm so used to doing it. It was now leading a group of people. So that was another opportunity again that Manny, and I'm grateful to him for that opportunity to provide leadership or learn leadership. So now I'm responsible not just for my 30 to 40 markets. I'm responsible for all, however many, 200 plus states that we were doing. And it was a huge learning curve. And again, being the only female in an all male suite was even more challenging. And coming in because these gentlemen knew me as a marketing person, as their junior, and now I'm their equal. So now I have to get over the familiarity of the relationship that we had before.
There. Yeah.
Correct. It was the re-education. So for all of us, and trying to be a mom at the same time while being on the road with an 8-month-old. That was a huge learning curve, but it was a fun one. I'm not going to lie. It was a fun one. And I had her on my hip, and now my child at 16 is just believes that backstage is normal, and that sitting front row is normal. And talking to performers is normal. I'm like, actually, it's really not. So
yeah, right.
And all the Globetrotters, it's no big deal. I'll just meet this other artist when they come.
True story. We did a summer camp. The Globetrotters had a summer camp. These guys, she was 2, still had her binky, and Big Easy and Flight Time were leading this camp here in Phoenix. So, baby in hand, off we go. Big Easy is 6'8", 6'9", and Herb is not. Yes. And the biggest, most wonderful level teddy bear. And Herb is not much far behind him. I think he's like 6'5", 6'6". Herb went to the shorter of the two monsters, to this little person. She just wouldn't go. She was like, oh my God. The bigger of the two, she went straight to him. He picked her up. He said, come here, girl. Put her on his hip. Did summer camp that whole morning with Maya on his hip. And so now Maya believes that the Harlem Globetrotters, all of them, are her best friends still.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
What's your, the Globetrotters are obviously known for getting down and dirty when it comes to marketing. What's your biggest takeaway from your time with the Globetrotters that you still carry with you?
Is there like a favorite campaign even or something that you remember?
Oh, wow. I give credit to my venues. They have just the most wonderful ideas. And I think Kosha Urbe said the same thing at the Arena Marketing Conference. He was like, what is the thing you wanted to do? The biggest, the craziest, let's do it. And I think that's the key. And I learned that when you give our venue folks, let the reins go, let them figure it out. They're a creative bunch of crazies. And so I don't know that I can pick any one, but what I did learn is that grassroots relationships truly can turn the tide when you're struggling to sell tickets. I also learned that because when I first started, we have the book and you follow this is how we do it.
Yes.
Didn't work so well. But when you give people the tools and go, have freaking at it, your market. I'm living in Phoenix, Arizona. You're in Kentucky. You're in Ohio. You're in Miami. You're in LA. Everyone's different. Do your thing. Your space. You're the experts. And when you let people go and do what they do, it's amazing what they come up with. It truly is. And so every year we came up with something different or a twist on something that we'd already done, and we made it that much better. And I just learned not to say no. As long as it was still PG. Or,
Still fit the brand, right? Yeah, gotta fit the brand.
Yeah, let's do the damn thing. Let's just do it. And I think my venue folks appreciated that.
Yes.
And they're just an extension of our team.
Yeah, I was just going to say that that was always one of the things I loved, working on the arena side was when someone would give you like a bit of a leash, and sometimes it's, the shows that are sold out concerts, they're kind of like, I don't need to give you this because we're going to sell fine regardless. So it's the shows that are like, all right, we need to get a little creative. What do you guys have? What's in the box that you've been saving for, some show that no one's allowed you to do? And that was like, I love that. That was because I usually had all those things in the box that someone's like, nope, we can't do that. Whether it was my boss or a CEO or someone that was kind of like, I don't think they're going to allow that. I don't think. And so I would literally just have this kind of case in my head of things that are just like, these are the things I'm not allowed to do, but I think they would be fun. So whenever we would have some show like the Globetrotters or someone else that would come along and be like, okay, so here's the key to that case in your head, open that shit up and let's see what's inside.
Yes.
It was super fun. And sometimes, some of them don't stick, but you never know unless you try it. And other times it's like you have these awesome, unique, one-of-a-kind things that you never would have known otherwise. But then you get to have this really fun, cool moment that you only can really experience, when someone gives you a long enough leash to do that.
It's true. It is true. And I would also say the other thing is gratitude. And being humble enough to know that I don't know everything. What I do know is Globetrotters, right? I know my product.
Right.
But when I put my head together with your crazy, the possibilities are endless, truly. And that's actually goes to DEI and inclusivity, right? I know my product. I'm bringing this. Here's my tools. What tools do you have? Let's put them together and let's blow this shit up. Let's do the damn thing. And that's what we're trying to do. And people appreciated it, but I was always grateful. I always made sure our box offices had pizza because it's going to be a long night. I always made sure that my box offices had, or whoever, we always said thank you. There's a signed basketball or a jersey, and it's just a little gesture.
No, it makes a big difference.
It really, really does. And even I still have a sweatshirt from California State University when I did it, CSUSB, San Bernardino. A sweatshirt from 20 plus years ago, and it's actually 28 plus years now in the industry, but I still have it. It's torn, tattered. It's got bleach stains. But it's one of my favorite things because one of my venues gave it to me. So it goes both ways, yeah.
So after about 12ish years with the Globetrotters total, you make a change over to Cirque du Soleil.
Mm-hmm.
Is this required for Canadian marketers to eventually spend some time with Cirque du Soleil?
Yes, all the people, everyone in Canada works for Cirque du Soleil. There are no other companies. That's a true story. And eventually, we all eventually, yes, we all do. It was a huge transition. And it was, I had started my own agency because I had left Globetrotters and I started my own agency. So I was working with various tours, freelance. And I was courting Cirque as a client. And they're like, no, I went and sat in the office with Finn Taylor at the time. It was a VP of marketing. And they were transitioning from big tots and wanted to increase their revenue stream. So they decided, what do we do with a show that's been in a tent for so many years, but we've invested so much? How else can we? And you can only move a tent 8 times a year, right? So that's only 8 markets. So we got to figure out how to create another revenue stream. So they decided, instead of throwing these shows and all the investment and the costumes and the stuff away, let's put them in arenas. Let's make it a little bit more mobile. And we can bring this product now to more. So I was brought in to start their arena division. There was only 2 of us. That was crazy, man. But I loved the creativity. It was overwhelming. It was unlike anything, any challenge I've ever had. When somebody says, sky's the limit, dream, you go, what? So where do you start? I don't know.
Right. It's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, it is overwhelming. I'm like, I've seen what the excellence that you guys have done. How do I now create something even better? I don't know. How do I do that? And so that is overwhelming. How do you top people that are at the top of their game? But you know what? It was an amazing opportunity to grow and to stretch, and not just my creative muscles, but my marketing. Everything is done with precision. It's like sometimes when you're on the road with the tour, you are like, we're making it up. Let's go. Let's build the plane and fly it. And Cirque is like, no, we're not doing that. No. We actually have a blueprint, and they're brilliant, smart people. And so it was intimidating and overwhelming, and a huge honor to be able to actually work with them.
And your role there, I mean, am I right here? You were the first and only African-American in the front office of the division.
Mm-hmm. That's a true story.
So it's just, I mean, it's just a feeling like, do you ever feel like, hey, I just want to do my job, and I don't want to carry this weight of the responsibility. I don't want to be the expert on this. I don't want to have to be the leader in blazing a trail and changing things, because it's a weight that Paul and I will never carry and never know. So some days it has to be just overwhelming.
Dave, that is such an interesting comment. I think the difference is, having grown up in Canada and then moving to the US, it's night and day. It was a shock. It was a rude awakening. I remember, and I'll be vulnerable here, I remember when I first moved here to the US, and somebody said something to me, and then of a racial nature, and it was derogatory, and it was ugly, and it was hurtful, and I went home and I cried. I cried for 3 days, on and off. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, I can't change the color of my skin. Why are they judging me? I don't understand. I'm just as smart. I've done my job. I've done all these things. Why are they? I don't understand, Mom. Because growing up in Canada, that wasn't a thing, right? So for you saying, for you to ask the question, does it feel heavy? It didn't, because I didn't really recognize at the time that I was the first and only, because we were treated equally. I had a seat at the table, and I had a seat at the decision-making table. And that has always been my experience growing up. I didn't realize, not to say that there isn't racism in Canada, absolutely, but it's just not as prevalent. It's not as much of a thing as it is here. Although things have changed. But at the time, I didn't recognize the implications of who I was within that organization. I was just part of an amazing organization. So front office was pretty monochromatic, very much so, but it didn't seem to matter. Yeah. All of the performers came from around the world. So it was completely different, sure. But front office, definitely monochromatic. And so it's an interesting question. I didn't realize the impact of being the first and the only. I think it's just a different space.
You had and thank you for your open honesty there. I know it's always a tricky thing to talk about. There's so much more that defines you, but you've just been such a leader in that space, and that's why you were given the Impact Award through EAMC, and we thank Suzanne for bringing your submission. There's somebody who's listening today, and they're a young person in this industry, and maybe they don't have a Black Employee Alliance. Or those kind of resources, because they're in a small town, they're in a small venue. Maybe they're, just in that first role. Give me some wisdom that you would share for them if they on the first steps of kind of blazing that trail of making their career path a little bit easier. As
a person of color, or as a young person coming in, Any young person coming in.
Well, any young person coming in, or specifically a person of color, or somebody who's feeling like they maybe aren't represented in the room that they're in.
For me, I think it's just keeping your eye on the ball. What's important to you? Make sure that you're doing your best for you. Some people may recognize it, some people won't. I think that you also have to be clear with boundaries, and it's tough to say things when you're new and you're not quite sure, but you know that the space you're in doesn't feel very good. You have a choice. You can leave, or you can stay and fight. Particularly if this is a space that you want to be in.
Yeah.
Then you have to try to find other like minds. Reach out to your peers. Reach out wherever you are. It may not be, as you said, Paul, you're the only arena in a city, but find other organizations where you can get some support for you professionally, for you as an individual, and just keep doing your job, keep pressing forward, making sure that you're calling things out. Hey, that's not okay. And I like to say, having those crucial conversations. I think there are ways to have conversations, as angering and as hurtful as sometimes behavior can be, and you're being overlooked and passed over for no other reason, even if you're qualified because of the color of your skin. Have those crucial conversations. They're frightening, they're difficult, but they're necessary. I think that is what will be helpful. Sometimes people aren't aware of their bias. It's unconscious bias. It's not an excuse, but I think there are ways to have those conversations. It goes back to that statement of in Canada. I didn't think about it. I just kept my eye on, like, I knew what I wanted. I was hungry. I did my job. And so, because it wasn't an issue here. And I would say that coming to the US, I did the same thing. I did me. I was my authentic self. I think maybe that's the key. Bring your authentic self. And if people don't like you, well, then that's okay. Not everybody's going to like you anyway.
It was a hard lesson to learn for so many of us, and easier for some of us than others, but such a key piece of it. Now, Kelly, we obviously touched on some tough topics today, and I appreciate your sharing today. But one thing before we wrap things up, we mentioned her earlier today, but I know you are so proud. You call her your best achievement, but let's give a little shout out to your 16-year-old Maya.
Maya Papaya.
You said she's a big gymnastics person.
She is. She's a competitive gymnast. She is creative. She's goofy. She's an amazing. She's a company dancer, and she was a cheerleader. Because we can't do gymnastics, cheer, and dance. We've realized because our knees don't just.
I bet you spend a lot of time at gymnastics events.
Mother of nature. I live there. Truly. I truly do. But you know what? It's such a joy to watch her. And I never understood it, and I still don't understand it. I watch her and I'm so proud of her. And I find myself holding my breath for her. And I actually get really weepy every time she gets ready to go on the floor, the beam or the bars. And I don't know why that is, but I'm just so super, super proud of her. And she's making her way in the world. And it's interesting to watch. It's painful, but it's sometimes because you're like, oh, I did all that. Oh my God, I was that. Oh, yeah. But she's a brilliant young lady. She's smart. She's caring. She's thoughtful, talented, all of the things. But she is my biggest achievement, I will say. Keeps me humble. She keeps me on my toes. She keeps me crazy.
Kids will do that, right? They keep us on our toes. For sure.
And she teaches me all the digital and stuff and things. So while I may look like I know what I'm doing, I actually have a 16-year-old in the background going, oh my God, why did you post that? Don't ever do that again.
It's good to have that, because I often do that. I'll run that by my kids. Is this cringe or is this fire? And
yes. Oh my God. She goes, Mom, she'll either use that's really cringy. Yeah. Or Mom, you're making me uncomfy. I'm like, okay. That's very uncomfy. I guess that's a thing.
That's great. Well, hey, Kelly, before we let you go, we want to hit you with our Fast Five. It's 5 quick questions. Just looking for your instant response here. First up, what was your very first concert?
Hall & Oates with my mother at 16, Wavemead Gardens in Toronto.
How about your favorite concert?
My favorite concert. I'm not a huge concert goer, but I will say the Bare Naked Ladies at Verizon Center in Manchester, New Hampshire. Unforgettable. So good. Do it now? What's
Canadian love coming through.
Yes, I'm telling you, actually, there really was a fantastic concert.
How about the last great book you read? Because we all have so much free time for reading.
Well, I'm like, or audiobooks we listen to?
That counts.
Totally counts.
Does it? Gosh, that's a really great question.
Or it could be the last bad book you read.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, no, actually I have a bad habit with like all of us, we're like, squirrel, shiny. If it doesn't catch my attention, then I'm like, I'm not finishing that. Friends, I don't know. I really.
How about do you have a favorite book?
I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Yeah, one of my favorites. Actually, it's one of my favorites. Yeah.
How about your favorite vacation you've ever done?
So, do you people take vacations? Really? Is
Every
that
once
a
in a
thing? That I've heard tell of this thing. I think probably the best vacation was my honeymoon to Scotland. We went to England and Scotland and we drove around. Actually, yeah, it was that, or when I was backpacking through Europe, when I took that sort of gap year and I went all over the place and met phenomenal. Actually, I will revise that. Those are tied. My honeymoon to Scotland and England, and
that sounds amazing.
It was, and then we backpacked throughout Europe, and yeah, it was cool.
Last question for you: What's your theme song? So there's the Kelly Show, and the cameras follow you all around and film your life. What's the theme song that plays over the opening credits?
Bare Naked Ladies, If I Had $1 Million.
There you go.
I like it.
Kelly, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best place to find you, or if they wanted to learn more about the Tempe Center for the Arts, give us all the plugs.
All the stuff. TempeCenterForTheArts.com, online, the World Wide Web, on Instagram and Twitter at Tempe Arts, and on Facebook at Tempe Center for the Arts.
All right. Very cool. I appreciate you making the time for us today. It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed meeting you a couple weeks ago in Minneapolis, and I know Paul and I really enjoyed a chance to get to know you a little bit better today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time.
And big thanks to everybody for listening to Adventures in Venueland. Remember, you can subscribe and find more episodes wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We'd love your 5-star review so you can help others find us. Until the next adventure, I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. Thanks for listening, everyone. Adventures in Venueland is a side project of the Event and Arena Marketing Conference, a nonprofit organization bringing together people in the field of live entertainment to discuss marketing, publicity, and sales trends. Find out more at eventarenamarketing.com.
Audio editing and mixing by Camille Faulkner.
Design and digital advertising by Megan Ebeck.
Copywriting and publicity by Samantha Marker.
Guest booking and brand strategies by Paul Hooper.
Guest research by Dave Rettelberger.
Marketing strategies by Paul Hooper, Megan Ebeck, and Samantha Marker. Thanks for joining us. Until the next adventure.